हे गाइस, तो स्वागत है आप सबका मेरे चैनल सुनो कहानी पे। हम पढ़ रहे थे रेड फ्लैग्स एंड रिश्तास बाय राधिका अग्रवाल। टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू रीड 7 चैप्टर ग्राउंड रूल्स। पोस्ट इवेंट कवरेज ananya.kapoor@the majorgeneral.co.in टू समर्थ। मैं ये जो है इसमें ईमेल्स वगैरह वो स्किप कर रही हूँ, तो आप लोग समझ जाना क्योंकि स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग तो आपको दिख ही रही होगी। डायरेक्ट मैं यहाँ से पढ़ती हूँ। हेलो, इट वॉज अ प्लेजर टू पार्टनर विथ यू फॉर आवर रिसेंट इवेंट। वी होप योर टीम enjoyed द लॉन्च एंड हैड अ ग्रेट इवनिंग. I am attaching an Excel sheet with the social media links for the barter post and additional influencer reposts with states on their performance. Do let us know your thoughts on the same. Best, Ananya Kapoor, Event Manager, The Main General. Post event coverage. Hi, Ananya. Thank you for sending across the links. We have been keeping an eye on the content over the last 2 days, and we are quite happy with the coverage plus performance. At that, Adhar also filled me is in on the events of the launch night, which he insists could not have gone better. Perhaps we could come down to your office one of these days to discuss the further future of this association. Regards, Samar Khanna. Marketing Head, Stellar Spirits India. Repost, Event Coverage. Hi Samarth, so glad to hear the feedback. How is it tomorrow for the meeting? I have got a very interesting project I would love to hear your thoughts on. Best, Pooja Ghai, Events Head, The Main Channel. Repost, Event Manager. Event Coverage. To Pooja. Hi Pooja, tomorrow looks good. Let's say we will be there by 12 pm. Regards, Samar Khanna, Marketing Head, Stellar Spirits India. Reply, well, this is awkward. To Ananya, free to launch after today's meeting. We need to talk. Regards, Adhar Chauhan, Senior Marketing Manager, Stellar Spirits India. I spent all of last night trying to figure out what Adhar could have wanted to talk about. Did he want to cancel the bet? Had he sobered up and realized that it had been a completely ridiculous idea? I secretly hoped not. Even though I knew it was immature and silly, the bet had given me a strange rush of adrenaline. I would woken up the day after the event in high spirits, determined to find my soulmate, even if it was not to spite another man. Of course, I had not had much luck. I had swiped relentlessly through the weekend looking for qualities instead of pointing out flaws, and even then I could not find a worthy enough prospect. The only dude I matched with had not bothered to start the conversation, and my pride forbade me from sending the first text. So that was that. By the time Tuesday morning rolled out, I would prepared myself for the worst. Adhar was going to back out of the bet, and I would have no choice but to go back to my predictable dating life. Meh, whatever. Did you book the conference room? Pooja rang me on this intercom 10 minutes before the Stellar Spirits team was scheduled to show up. Yep, we can head there now. If you want, I spoke into the phone. I'll be there in a few. You and Ryan go ahead, she said before hanging up. I scooped up my laptop and notebook, wiggling my hips as I got up to ensure my Georgette long skirt was not tucked inside my butt crack. When I got to Ryan's desk, he was watching a prank complete comparison video on YouTube without earphones. For someone who was neither exceptionally good at his job nor incredibly hardworking, he displayed an admirable amount of confidence in the workplace. Ryan, I said, tapping his shoulders to get his attention. It's time for the meeting. What meeting? He asked sheepishly, hitting pause on his laptop keyboard. I had to resist the urge to roll my eyes. The Stellar Spirit team is coming down, remember? Oh, right. I would almost forgotten, he said, looking up at me with a smile. No, Ryan, you had forgotten. When he continued to sit there without any sign of urgency, I began tapping my feet on the tiled floor, hoping he would get the hint. Right, well, I'll meet you there. Meet you in there, he said, giving me another smile before he turned back to finish his video. I did roll my eyes then. The conference room was occupied by a group of sales team hoggers. When I got there, I tapped my imaginary watch from outside the glass doors, indicating it was time for them to leave. After what seemed to be ages, they began to shuffle out one by one. Sorry, Ananya. Meeting ran long, said Rahul, the newly appointed head of the sales department. I could bet he had not even made a reservation for the previous time slot. No worries, I said politely and made my way inside. The room was freezing, the chairs were scattered around, and someone had left a half-eaten sandwich on the conference table. Ryan showed up precisely 2 seconds after I had finished rearranging and cleaning up, and Pooja arrived shortly later. After. They are not here, she asked as she set her laptop down on the long glass table. They are coming up. I just got a call from security, I said, pointing to the intercom at the center of the table. Pooja nodded at me, then turned to Ryan for helping connecting her laptop to the projector. She was going to present the best man idea to stellar spirits in the hopes that they would they would want to come on board as the bar sponsor. The car launch had been nothing but a trial run, and since it had gone well, there was a good chance that they would want to partner with us for a much larger project. Here they come, Ryan said under his breath as three male figures appeared in the doorway. An office boy showed them inside the room. Adar was the last to enter. The two men before him were much older, probably in their late 40s or early 50s. All three of them were pastel shirts and black trousers. It was too hot for blazers. I was certainly then they would have thrown them on. In front of this formally clad man, Pooja, Ryan, and I looked like we were going for a college picnic. Pooja welcomed them warmly, shaking their hands and introducing us. I wondered if she would met them before or if she would stalked them on LinkedIn to figure out who was who. Aside from Adar, who she must have met at the launch party, Ryan moved closer to the projector to assist Pooja with the presentation, and as a result, the four remaining attendees sat facing each other on either side of the table. Adar would wound up sitting next to me. I have to say, I am kind of jealous I could not make it other night, said Summer. The oldest and presumably the senior most of three, Adar could not stop raving about the party. That's very kind of you, Adar. We were very happy to host you, said Pooja as she took a seat close to the projector screen. To Summer, she said cheerfully, there is always a next time. That's exactly why we all were here, to ensure there would be one. What will you guys have? Tea, coffee, asked Pooja, ready to dial in their orders on the intercom. We indulged in some small talks as we waited for the beverage, a designated period of unimportant chatter before we jumped into business. I was actually acutely aware of Adar's presence next to me, and at times I could feel him looking at me from the corner of my eye. After a while, I felt something drop into my lap. I looked down to discover a folded piece of paper. Carefully, without making a sound or appearing distracted, I opened it up. Found. The one yet? I threw a peripheral glare at him, and he had to place a hand in front of his mouth to hide his grin. So, what is the project you wanted to tell us about? Hurry, the other older guy asked after the coffee had been served. Right, said Pooja, getting up to address the room. Right. Let's get it right to it. The screen lighted up with the opening slide of the presentation I had made a few days ago. Best man flashed in a cursive font with red and gold detailing in the background. Next to me, I sensed Adar leaning forward for a better view. Pooja went on to explain the concept for the next 35 minutes, taking a few breaks as and when the team interrupted with questions. That's quite the idea, Adar said when the presentation was over. Yeah, it's definitely out of the box, Summer said, making little air quote with his fingers. Maybe too out of the box. Hari shifted in his seat. His eyebrows were furrowed in doubt. Involuntarily, I forewarned, who was this old, boring man to sit on my idea? Well, that's for you to decide, Pooja said diplomatically. Then she added, but we have got the go ahead from International and we were looking at finalizing the sponsor this month. I think it's an interesting take on content around weddings. People will eat it up, Adar said, and I felt a strange surge of warmth for him. I agree, but we have to analyze whether it would be good for business. Sponsoring alcohol for weddings of this scale is no cheap barter, Summer said, standing out as the voice of reason. Give us time until the end of the week to get back to you. Absolutely, that's not a problem, Pooja said, and Summer got up to shake her hand for the next time. The three of them left shortly after, and I wondered if Adar had forgotten about our lunch plan. I was contemplating writing him an email as I got back to my cubicle when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. How's the food at Cafe Hutkins? Adar's voice sounded different on the phone, more guzzled somehow. I leaned against my desk, laptop clutched to my chest with one hand. How would you get my number? How did you get my number? I asked my brother, he said, and I burst out laughing. Done. Now, will you answer my question? He asked, refusing to partake in my delight. It's passable, I finally said. Cool, meet me there in 10, he said and hung up. Adar, unlike me, was not a picky eater. He picked out of the safest thing from the menu, a red sauce pasta. Within second of the waiter handing him the menu, who had to return twice to inquire about my order. Finally, I settled on a plate of garlic mushroom toast, a dish I had not seen before on Cafe Hutkin's menu. The two of us were seated in a corner booth that overlooked the street behind my office. It was in the quieter part of Greater Kailash, a few secure kilometers away from the madness of the M Block market. If a few weeks ago someone had told me I I would be meeting, grabbing lunch with Adar Chauhan, that too voluntarily, I would have laughed in their face. Even now, I was acutely conscious of the oddity of our relationship, if you could call it that. The best man thing. Was that your idea? Asked Adar as the waiter cleared the menu and poured water into our empty glass. Even though he had already expressed his interest in the idea, I was not completely at ease answering his questions. I did not want him to pick it up apart once I confirmed that it had, in fact, come from me. Yeah, it was, I said, feeling a lot less confident than I wanted to sound. His face immediately broke into a smirk as he said, I knew it. Why do you say it like that? I squinted my eyes and raised my chin in his direction. I like to believe I was not an extremely defensive person, but there was something about this man that always made me want to take a step back and cross my arms. It was as if he said to me had a degree of mocking, lingering, and in the background. It's just that, he said and cleared his throat. For someone who claims to be so against the institutions of marriage, you seem to be obsessed with. I opened my mouth, lifting a finger to silence him. You either have bad hearing or bad memory. Either way, you should see a doc. I did not have a problem with the idea of marriage. I had a problem with his idea of marriage. He chuckled, taking pleasure in the knowledge that he would tick me off again. We continued to bicker about all kinds of nonsense until the food arrived, at which point he decided to bring up the reason for meeting me. So, I wanted to talk to you about the other day. About the bet, he said, some of the playfulness exciting in his voice. You want to call it off, don't you? I said, mutter of faculty. He paused mid-bite, his fork full of pasta hanging in the air dangerously. On the contrary, I'm quite pumped about the kicking your eyes, he said, placing the food in his mouth. Like hell, I said, rolling my eyes. So, what is it then? My toast was dripping with mushroom gravy and I shoved it into my mouth for a quick bite, only to discover that the bread was rock hard. A piece fell inside with a loud crunch after I used considerable force to bite down on it. A drop of the gravy slaped onto my face and I had to wipe it off hurriedly while Adar silently observed me from across the table. If he wanted to poke fun at my clumsiness, clummy, clumsiness, whatever, he decided to seize the opportunity for later. I want you to lay down some ground rules, he said after I had set down the embarrassingly stained table napkin. And what might those be? I asked, pushing my plate away. There was no way I was eating this crap, noticing the apathy I would develop towards my food. Adar moved his plate to the middle of the table. I picked a frog from the cutlery rack and dug in. I made a mental note for later. It's so good to order safe. Boring dishes sometimes, especially when in such disagreeable company. We must keep each other in a loop. You can't just spring a boyfriend on me out of nowhere, he said. So what? I scoffed. You expect me to email you minutes when I am on a date? The corner of his mouth lifted ever so slightly as he said, I am sure that will be extremely entertaining, but let's settle on weekly updates for now. And what purpose will that serve? I asked. It will keep the competitive spirit alive, knowing how the other person is doing, he said, looking me directly in the eye. Fine, I said after a few seconds. I have got a rule too. He placed his hands on the table and leaned back all the way, so his spine was touching the back of the Fuchs leather couch. We can't fake it. If we find out the other person is fabricating their relationship, they lose face, I said, imitating his posture to show him I was not backing down along with the vet. But I had not accounted for the height difference between us, which meant I had to practically lie down to reach the black back of the couch. You think I would have married a random girl for the sake of a bet? He asked, clutching at the ridiculousness of my posture as well as my statement. Honestly, I would not put you above it. Haha, he said, his voice devoid of any humor. Oh, and one more thing, I said, and the wheels in my brain turning faster and faster. The adrenaline rushed back. What? To win, we have got to make it official, I said. How convenient for you. A wedding can take months to plan. That gives you far too much time to score a boyfriend, he said, shaking his head. The waiter appeared to ask if he could clear the table, eyeing my uneaten toast with slight disdain. Yes, please, I said, unfazed. I had half a mid to ask for a refund, but I did not want to Ada to think I was a cheap. Once the guy had left, I continued, okay, not a wedding, but at least an engagement or Oka. I am sure you will be in a hurry to claim the girl as your own to protect her from the other suitors anyway. I said the last part of the annoyed sarcasm. And what about you? How will you make it official? With an Instagram post, he let us out a dry laugh. Hey, I said, lighting up. That's actually a pretty good idea. Oh, come on, he said, throwing up his hands dramatically. That's bullshit. I leaned forward, looking him straight in the eye. Think about it. An engagement is your way of telling your friends and family you have found someone and are officially off the market. I explained, holding his gaze. That's exactly the purpose a couple photo on Instagram would serve for me. He made a great show of thinking about it while we split the bill and got up to leave. His car was parked outside the restaurant and I walked him to it, still waiting for him to answer. All right, he said, but both of you will have to do it. All the guys I knew, even the ones that had been in long-term relationships, maintained radio silence about their love lives on social media. Instagram was all about football, aesthetics, and art for them. Getting a brand new boyfriend to put up an Instagram post about me would be laborious, if not possible, but I knew from the way Adar's jaw was set that this was non-negotiable. You have got yourself deal, I said, extending my hand to shake on it. After he would spade away, I checked my phone for the past time. That afternoon, I had two texts from Pooja, the first to ask me where I was, and the second to inform me that she had emailed me this week's task list and was leaving for the day. It was only then I realized I had spent close to 2 hours on this lunch without any idea of where the time had gone. Chapter 8, Blast from the Past. Even though I had spent most of my life in Delhi, save for the 2 years I lived in Bangalore to do my post graduation, I had not managed to pick up some of the key tactics and habits Delhiites were known for. I could not, for example, eat chaat off the street without spending the entirety of the next morning in the loo. I could not hurl abuses at every motorcycle driver who cut it in front of my car while I drove, and I could not for the life for me bargain. Bhaiya, give me a fair price, said Virinda as she ran her hand over the red silk fabric. I called you sister, didn't I? I would never try to deceive you, said the man with a thin moustache, sounding incredibly earnest. We were in a sari shop in the bustling market of Lajpat Nagar where I had been forced into helping Verinda source fabrics for her mother's boutique. This was the seventh store we had visited this afternoon, and I had warned my friend I was not willing to come out of it empty-handed. It was surprisingly less crowded than some of the other shops, even though it had an air conditioner to give customers some relief from the dreadful heat outside. I sipped on my cola bottle with a straw as the two of them continued to bicker in good humor. Can you show me some material for the blouse? We asked, shoveling the bargaining for letter. Sister, give me 5 minutes. I have the perfect blouse for this piece, but it's in Chacha's shop, the man said, offing off the display platform. We are in hurry, she said, even though we both know we were be here for a while. Going to be here for a while. I'll be back before you know it. He was already out the door. There was no other helper in the shop, so we were left alone to chat. We reached for the AC remote and lowered the temperature to 60 degrees, flopping the neckline of her cotton kurta to dry the sweat pooling on her chest. Mom is getting to flip if I don't finish this off today, she said, taking the soda bottle from me for a sip. How are the outfits coming along for that elaborate wedding? I inquired. Don't ask. That bad, huh? I asked, patting her shoulders slightly. It's just that this could not have to come at worst time. You know, we were just about to relocate, she said, stress gulping the sugary drink she usually stayed away from. The interior decorator also bailed on us. I am sure you will find another one as soon as you are done with these projects, I said, consoling her. No, I don't think we are looking. Now Mom wants to do it in-house, she said, then added, which means it will fall on me. Verinda was a smart girl and she had a phenomenal eye for fashion, but when it comes to channeling those design capabilities into space and architecture, she struggled. Her room, for example, was full of artworks, handicrafts, dream catchers, and odd mementos from her many travels and adventures. It was like a gallery wall, but instead of being organized into a one structure for effect, it was scattered all over like children's toy in a community play school. You will figure it out, I said, hoping I sounded sincere. Actually, she said, placing the bottle on the wooden plank we were sitting on. I was hoping you would do it. The door jingled as a customer stepped inside, looking around to find someone to help her. She was carrying at least 5 huge shopping bags, all from different shops and brands. When no one jumped to assist her, she swiftly turned on her heel and left. Me, I can help you, but I can't do it. Please, you are so much better at the stuff than me. Plus, you are always on Pinterest looking up inspiration that you never get to use, she said. Hey, I do use them, but for my events, I said, puffing off my chest. We cocked her head out to one side. Really? When was the last time you designed a space for an event? She was right. The designing had gone out of the window when we began outsourcing logistics a few years ago. Now my job mostly consisted of supervising the process and managing the guest list. Not that I was complaining, it was way less stressful. I have a job, where I am going to find the time? I asked, trying to reason with her. You can just tell me the things you need, and I'll source them for you on the weekdays. And on weekends, you can put it all together, she said. And before I could respond, she added, I'll pay you. I stared at her, taken aback. I meant, I don't expect you to do it for free. It's professional paid project. Then hire a professional to do it. I crossed, and she knew it. I never liked discussing money with V, not only because we had considerably different financial backgrounds, but also because she could not understand why it bothered me. Like 2 years ago, when she had turned 25, she wanted to take girls' trip on Vietnam. When I told her I did not have the funds for it, she offered to sponsor me. She did not speak to me for 2 weeks after I turned her down. It had not always been like this. When we were kids, our differences didn't take up so much space in our lives. We shared everything. We would swipe clothes, lend each other books and video games, and even trade our prized Pokemon cards, blurring the line between what was hers and what was mine. Yet, as we got older, things changed. She would spend her summer vacation traveling to Europe and Australia, while I stayed home and waited for her to return. Every birthday, she would soar me with expensive gifts, and on hers, I would try to overcompensate for my pitiable budget and handmade scrapbooks. Once, during a school fundraiser, she effortlessly sold twice as many raffle tickets as me, tapping into her family's extensive social network while I struggled to meet my modest quota. This instance, though seemingly minor, began to serve as constant reminds of the growing gap between us. Come on, at least think about it, she said, pleading with her eyes. I was saved from the pleasure of responding when the shopkeeper returned, panting from his journey. Here, sister, look at this golden beauty, he said, climbing the platform so he could sit in front of us. We spent a few minutes fusing over the texture of the fabric before finalizing her purchase. The bargaining that followed resembled the 2008 Wimbledon final between Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer. In the end, we scored the final point, taking the trophy home. Outside, we stopped at a sweet corn stall to pick up a snack. We had not said much to each other since she would offer to employ me, and I desperately wanted to make this weirdness to go away. I'll do it, I said, handing 100 rupees to note to the street vendor in exchange for two criminally, two criminally small cups of buttered sweet corn. Before she could interrupt into a fit of excitement, I continued, but I am not taking money for it. At least you can give me a Zara gift card. We flashed a bright smile at me, clicking her paper cup with mine. We discussed how to kick-start the process as we walked back to the main road, where her clover-driven BMW awaited us. The driver had held the door open for both of us as we got into the back seat. By the way, we said when we were on our way, I have some news about him. The way she said it left me with little doubt about who the person in the question was. We followed. He must not to be named Akka, my ex, on Instagram to give me live updates about him, although only when absolutely necessary. I had blocked him everywhere, knowing I could not stand in the headache of seeing him live his life since me, but that did not mean I could not still keep tabs on him. He's got a girlfriend, some white chicks called Juliet. Juliet, really? I see, I said, trying very hard to block the pang of jealousy I was feeling. Honestly, she's not the even pretty, we said, her kind eyes searching my face of any sign of despair. I don't care, it's been forever, I said, but we both know it did not mean it. It's not that I was not over him. I knew I did not want him to back, not in this life, not even in another, but I found it hard to shake off the pain he would left with me. Do you want to see the post? It might give you some kind of closure, we said, placing a hand on mine. Oh god, no, that's a terrible idea. You have seen it and I knew about it. That's enough, I said, my mouth falling upon in horror. Okay, Annie, she said quietly. The car ride to V's house felt longer than it should have. She changed the topic soon after she realized I did not want to talk about him, but I was distanced my mind elsewhere. What's happening on the dating front? Swiped on a new cutie? She asked, infusing her voice with cheerfulness. This would have been a good time to tell her about the bet. I want to say I was not sure why I didn't tell her, but that would be a lie. I knew exactly why it was hard for me to come clean to Vee about something like this. She would tell me it was a stupid idea, one that would almost certainly end in a disaster. She would not understand the kick it had given me and how I was determined to find a partner, even if it was to experience some fabricated feeling of victory. And now I had two people to beat, my original contender and the man who had broken my heart 3 years ago, who was now playing Romeo to someone else. After aggressively after aggressively swiping for 3 days, I realized I was going about the wrong way. I was looking for a pool of cute, intelligent, and eligible guys when the truth was I had already interacted with most of them during my online dating career. Not only I had met and turned down hundreds of guys, but I had also ghosted countless others without giving them a fair chance. It was time. I decided to dig into the archives. A Saturday night study of my past just revealed what I already knew. I wrote nice guys off too soon. For example, I had stopped replying to a perfectly sweet guy because he insisted on having a phone conversation instead of texting. I could not remember why, but I guessed it must have seemed like too much trouble at the time. Another chat had been abandoned after the guy had responded to my courtesy how it's going with a 200 words long essay about his current well-being. It's not that I had dated assholes. I stopped doing that after Mr. You Know Who. I did not pick up the good ones either, believing them to be too vanilla for my taste. In fact, I could not have gone on date with more than 5 guys in the last 3 years. Today I was meeting one of them, Ajay, and I had met about a year ago over a lunch date, and I had decided within the first 30 minutes that I would not be seeing him again. There was nothing wrong with him other than the fact that he was too nice. He was perfect gentleman who brought me flowers, opened doors for me, and instead on dropping me home later, even when I continuously bailed on him after our first date, he did not show up an ounce of disrespect or bitterness towards me. He resorted to silently liking every new post I put up on Instagram and occasionally responding to my stories. If anyone deserved a second chance, it was him. So, first date 2.0, huh? I said, greeting him with a light hug. He picked up a quaint Italian restaurant in a Chappakali, one that we and I had been meaning to visit for a few months. I hope this one leads to second, he said, returning my hug warmly. The first thing I noticed when I sat down were the customized menu cards, napkins, and coasters on the marble top table. Mine and AK meticulously calligraphed in black ink. I opened my mouth to say something but could not find the right words. My finger drove circles over my engraved initials on the cloth napkin. Wow, I finally said. I just wanted to do something nice for you, he said when I did not complete my sentence. He looked nervous, like he was trying to assess if he had gone overboard. I forced myself to give him my sweetest smile, and he visibly brightened. It's amazing. No one's ever done something like this for me, I said, then added, especially one on a first date. Well, you are worth it. I would know. I spent weeks thinking about you after our first date last time, he said, his dark cheeks flushing at the devolutions. Ajay was a textbook good-looking guy. He was tall, not as tall as giants from the Chauhan family, though dark and really quite handsome. He had a thick, well-groomed beard the last time we met, which he head, now shaved off to reveal dimpled right cheek. He wore a printed white and blue shirt with black chinos and leather loafers. Welcome, Miss Ananya and Mr. Ajay. You are our special guest for the evening as well. Spoken waiter addressed us at our table. That's when I noticed the restaurant looked awfully devoid of customers. Beside the staffs, we were the only two people I could spot. Had he booked the entire place just for the two of us? I pushed the idea out of my head, deciding that it was better if I presumed otherwise. We placed our respective orders from our personalized menu and resumed chattering after the man had left. So, still with that man's magazine, he asked. Website, I corrected, nodding at the same time. How's going? Any exciting projects coming up? He asked, looking genuinely interested. I told him about the best man idea and how I hoped it would shape up over the coming month. He asked me question after question, leaving no opportunity for a lull in conversation to arise. What's going on with your work? I asked, trying hard to remember what he did. It's the same. Market crash, market rise, no big deals, he said and struggled. No wonder I would forgotten. Stock market vehemently bored me. Nevertheless, I let him tell more about his office and kind of work culture he'd hailed from, which was poles apart from mine. We talked all the way through the main course without pausing to appreciate the spectacular presentations of the dishes we would ordered. The waiter appeared at our side to clear our dishes. He was followed by another guy who set down a gorgeous two-tier strawberry cheesecake on our table. Oh, I don't think we ordered this, I said, ignoring the sugary goodness that was already exploding on my taste buds. I got it, made it for you, I just said slyly, since you could not find your favorite dessert on the menu last time. Wow, I thought this guy has really gone all out. The waiter served us a slice each of the wingly delight before bowing out. How is it? He asked me as I took a bite, his eyes sparkling with eagerness. It's un it's unbelievable, I said, not knowing if I was referring to the dessert or the gesture. Don't freak me out, Annie. It's just cake. I hope you don't mind me asking, but why didn't you be meet after? He trailed off, uncertain how to broach the subject of his previous rejection. I cleared my throat to buy myself an extra moment. I think I just was not looking for something substantial at the time, and you seemed like you were. And now? He asked. I could not get myself to commit to yes, but I bobbed my head in response. His face light up. You did not have to go to all this trouble. I mean, this cake is big enough to feed a whole wedding, I exclaimed. You are worth it, he said for the second time that evening. Don't freak me out. He's just extra nice. I shifted in my seat, unsure how to respond. I must have had an odd expression on my face because he threw his head back in soft laugh. Okay, no more grand gestures, he said, I promise. I signed internally and managed a small smile before excusing myself to go to the washroom. When I returned, he was standing in front of the table, taking to a bunch of men dressed in red and gold band uniforms. Leave it, I heard him say as I approached. His smile flattered when he saw I was back. What's going on? I asked, looking for him to the five young musicians. At that, one of the men strummed his guitar and the other four began to count down from three. Before I knew what was happening, they broke into an capable number I was too stunned to identify. I shifted my gaze to Ajay, who was cupping his forehead with one hand and was too embarrassed to look at me. The group remained unfazed by the lack of enthusiasm their audience displayed. After what seemed like a few years, the song dissolved into silence. The man with the guitar waited a few seconds for applause, and after realizing there would not be any, asked me if I had any other special request. It was official. I freaked out. I'm sorry, I said to Ajay, bending down to pick up my crossbody bag from the couch. This just is not going to work. Ananya, this is all a misunderstanding, he said, lunging forward to take my hand in his. I swear, I was trying to cancel this whole thing. From the corner of my eye, I could see the musicians looking at each other in confusion, trying to communicate telepathically. Should they stay? Should they leave? Or should they just sing? I withdrew my hand quickly and hit him with my least favorite glitch. It's not you, it's me. I knew that was a lie. Of course, it was definitely him. सो गाइस, यहाँ पे हमारा चैप्टर ख़त्म होता है 8। मिलते हैं आपको नेक्स्ट वीडियो में। बताइएगा ज़रूर कि आपकी ये बुक कैसी लग रही है, एंड डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब माई चैनल। स्टे ट्यून्ड। थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग।